USC tops LSU. Florida State looks to rebound from Dublin, and a Heisman update after week one. You're listening to College Football Smothered and Covered. Of course, we are powered by Locked On.
You are Locked On College Football Smothered and Covered with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What a weekend it was. What a Sunday night it was in the world of college football. Saturday, a few good games, but Sunday night redeemed the entire weekend with USC's win over LSU. We'll definitely talk about that, of course. We'll talk about Florida State and a Heisman update as well. Thank you for making College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On, your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Of course, on YouTube, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast with zero sugar and convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive a 20% discount off your first offer. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5hourenergy.com today to receive your bonus. And of course, you have to use that promo code Locked On CFB. Okay. USC's win over LSU. We're going to get into this from a lot of different angles because there are a lot of different ways to look at this. First things first, let's talk about USC because we can sit here and talk about Miller Moss and Woody Marks, and Lord knows we're going to, but that defense, the USC defense, actually looked functional. That's a huge deal because throughout Lincoln Riley's career as a head coach, he didn't even care. You could tell he didn't even focus on fundamental defensive football. They looked poorly coached. They looked unmotivated. And they looked like a unit that really was overlooked. That changed against LSU. And yes, we can talk about how many yards Garrett Nussmeier had. We can talk about Kyron Lacey and all this stuff. That doesn't matter. They kept everything in front of them. They bent, but they didn't break. And if you go back and look historically at what USC has been, they broke early, they broke often, and they didn't even fix it. So to have that kind of success on a national stage against a very good LSU team says to me that this USC team is for real. This USC team is for real. Now, the schedule is brutal. We all know about it. And it's the Big Ten, so we still have to see what they can become moving forward. But being able to do that is a massive step forward. And then the second question with USC, which people talked about it, and I honestly didn't care all that much because I have faith in Lincoln Riley in one regard, and that's it, to develop quarterbacks. Miller Moss looked fantastic. Miller Moss looked like a superstar guy they've been selling for a very, very long time. I was skeptical. I'll be 100% honest. I was skeptical. I thought Jade Mayava might come in before the season. But it looks different. But when you have a guy that can distribute the football and find a bunch of different receivers, and you have Zachariah Branch on that roster, whoa, buddy, you're dangerous. You might have a situation where you put up 30, 40 points a game. So I know it's overreaction Monday, but there are certain things that you have to overreact to. And USC being able to play functional defense against an actual college football team, regardless of skill level, is huge. It's sort of the same thing with Notre Dame and beating Texas A&M. Yes, it's okay to overreact to that. It's okay to overreact and say Notre Dame's going to the college football playoff, because where are the landmines beyond that? But USC, man, maybe I'm wrong. I fully admit when I'm wrong, right? I fully admit it. You guys know it. For the last 15 years, I've written a column called Into the Season Accountability, where basically it's dedicated to all of you saying how dumb I am and admitting, in fact, how dumb I am. So far, so good for USC. Now, on the flip side, we all saw the press conference video of Brian Kelly slamming his hand on the ground or on the table in frustration, basically saying he's got to fix this. He's got to fix this. He's got to fix this. And he does. He does. That team looked unmotivated. That team looked poorly coached. The penalties racked up. It was pretty much a disaster from the get-go, with the exception of Nuss. Brian Kelly has every reason to be upset, but he should not be upset with his players. And it kind of felt like he was. Those comments made it seem like, yes, he was upset with his players. That's not fair. Yes, they're committing penalties. How do you fix that? In practice. Yes, they're giving up yards in bunches. Explosive play after explosive play after explosive play. How do you fix that? In practice. And you have a great defensive coordinator and super athletic players. And so at some point, you got to start pointing the finger at the leader. And because clearly Blake Baker was brought in because he's a superstar defensive coordinator. Didn't look like it. Major Burns was out of position almost every snap of the game. You can theoretically put that on the defensive coordinator, but it's on the head coach more than anything else. You're the CEO, Brian. You got to do better. And to consistently come up short in the same way every single season opener means that he's not trying to fix things. Now, I saw a lot of people who probably don't pay attention to college football on an hour by hour and a minute by minute basis say that Brian Kelly is on the hot seat. No. He is not on the hot seat. There is absolutely no way he's getting fired unless there's a 4-8 disaster. The guy can coach. The guy can get you to a point where you are competing. 2 years ago, he won the SEC West, beat Alabama in overtime, rolled the dice, showed that he had cojones. And Jaden Daniels found Mason Taylor for the game winner. He is consistently a 9 or 10 game winner every single year, with the exception of 2016 when they went 4-8 at Notre Dame. I get it. Last night was frustrating. I get it. He's very polarizing because of what happened at Notre Dame and Declan Sullivan. I get it that his demeanor is not desirable, but he wins football games. And in the past, no, that does not mean that he makes the college football playoff or he even sniff it all the time. Now, he did at Notre Dame. Remember, they went to 2 different college football playoffs. They went to the BCS National Championship game. One of those college football playoff appearances was the COVID year, but still, it happened. So he can get you there. But what's there? Like, that's the thing, is what's the definition of getting you there now? A 10-win season? That's absolutely on the table for this LSU team. 100% on the table for this LSU team. Why? Because I think we found out that LSU has a quarterback that can compensate for a defense that was poorly coached, that was undisciplined, because Garrett Nussmeier looked like an absolute phenom. Now, I don't know why Kyron Lacey disappeared in the second half, but we know that Garrett Nussmeier can make NFL throw after NFL throw after NFL throw, because he did it, and he did it on a big stage. And he did it against a defense that, again, going back to the first part of the show, I didn't know could play like that. So spare me with the Brian Kelly is on the hot seat talk. Brian Kelly is not on the hot seat. He's a winner. In this day and age of the 12-team playoff, he can get you into that playoff more times than not. And he actually has replaced good players with good players. Garrett Nussmeier was money last night. So come on with that. Plus, the schedule's very easy. The schedule's very easy. And I think overreacting to USC's performance is fine. Saying that USC is a national championship contender is not overreacting. Saying that Notre Dame is a college football playoff favorite now is not overreacting. Saying Brian Kelly should be fired is 100% overreacting, because that's nonsense. That's nonsense. We'll take a break. Coming up, we will talk about Florida State. Of course, they play Boston College tonight, Labor Day night. We'll talk about it coming up next. All right, the show brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. We're in day 5 of the opening weekend college football marathon. You know you need it. You know I need it. I was up late last night. I was up late Saturday night, of Friday night, and Thursday night. So what's going to get me through the final day of the 5-day marathon? It's going to be 5 Hour Energy. It fixes tired fast. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of DIY projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a large list of projects at home. Got to clean up the lake house. All the kids were down there at the lake. Can't see it over my head, but rafts all over the place. So my DIY list is huge today before the Florida State Boston College game. When you get your supplies for the project, don't forget the most essential supply, which is a 5 Hour Energy shot. You know, I'll take that between cleaning up and before watching the game. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape berry, and there is a flavor for everyone. You can try them all. On the site, you have the option to build your perfect 12 or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it is delivered right to your door. Go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5hourenergy.com. And get some 5 Hour Energy product today. You can use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your first offer. This offer only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5hourenergy.com today. All right, let's talk about Florida State and Boston College. This is no joke for Florida State. We talked about this on College Sports Sunday, myself and Tom Luganville. We were talking about, we have to make picks, obviously, at the end of the show. We did for USC, LSU, and I was wrong, but we also did for Boston College and Florida State. And I was floored, absolutely floored, that Boston College is a 16-point underdog to Florida State. And that's not because Florida State, we're going to talk about what happened to Florida State in Dublin and why that's concerning. But Thomas Castellanos is a very good quarterback. Boston College can scare the bejesus out of everybody because they've got one of the most dynamic players in college football. I don't know if the public just doesn't know about that, or if there's something that the public doesn't know about that might skew Boston College in that direction. But I could not believe it, because watching that game in Dublin, and I was there, watching that game in Dublin, everyone focused on DJ Uiagalelei and the struggles that he had, and they were not good. I get it. He wasn't the reason they lost that game. Florida State got whipped on the line of scrimmage, both lines of scrimmage. And so if that's the case, it's usually not something you can fix. So how could they fix it in a week and 2 days? They probably can't. And so now you're asking that defensive line, that front seven, which just got abused by Georgia Tech, to go up against a quarterback who is a better runner than Haynes King. And that's not a slight against Haynes King. It's just a fact that Castellanos is a bigger, faster, stronger version, maybe not bigger, faster, more dynamic version of Haynes King. If your front seven can't slow down Haynes King, it has no shot against Castellanos. And now Bill O'Brien knows exactly how to attack it. And say what you will about Bill O'Brien, and I have, for a lot of different reasons, but he's still a very smart offensive mind. That staff that he hired is fantastic at what they do. So now they've got game tape. They're looking at Florida State going, wow, they're that much out of position almost every single. They're getting pushed back 3, 4, 5 yards almost every single snap. You're damn right he's going to attack that. You're damn right he knows how to attack that Florida State defensive front. And he's got one of the best players in college football, and nobody knows about him, apparently. So this is huge for Mike Norvell. We always talk about it, and Tom Luganville and I had a massive conversation about this on College Sports Sunday on SiriusXM, that teams improve the most from week 1 to week 2. And generally speaking, that's true. But to me, it also does depend on where those deficiencies are. And for Florida State, the deficiency can't be fixed. You can't find bigger, faster, stronger defensive linemen that have feet like ballerinas. You can't find 8, 9, 10 defensive linemen to rotate in and out. Like they don't exist. If they didn't exist in week 1, how do they exist in week 2? You're not going to suddenly find them. You might try, you might have an idea, but you're not suddenly going to find them. So this is a huge game for Florida State to prove if they can improve, they can make that old adage become reality. I don't think they can. And the fact that they are 16-point favorites over a Boston College team that has one of the best players in the sport taking the snaps is almost unfathomable to me. So let's make a pick. Florida State wins. Boston College covers. And even if it's a blowout, let's just say Florida State comes out. They fix the problems on both lines. DJ Uiagalelei stretches the field. It's a complete opposite of what we saw last week. Let's just say that happens. The backdoor cover is there. The backdoor cover is there for Castellanos and Bill O'Brien. That is, if they get blown out, you still have a quarterback who can make things happen. Can they make a big play, make 2 big plays, 3 big plays? And if that's the case, covering should be easy. If that's the case, then even if you get blown out, a backdoor cover should not only be in the cards, but it's probably going to happen. Because Bill O'Brien's not going to sit there and say, okay, third quarter, we're getting blown out. Everybody out, 2s go in. It's the first game. He's going to want to see what his quarterback can do. He's going to see what his 1s can do. He's going to see what works and what doesn't, and try to find answers for a prolonged period of time in that game. So give me Florida State to win. Give me Boston College to cover. To me, this just feels like one of those games that might be sneaky good. We'll take a break. We'll talk about the Heisman Trophy. One guy who I did not believe in made a massive, massive statement on Saturday. I'm a Heisman voter. I can't tell you exactly what I think because they will come after us. And yes, they do. They really, really don't like when we start talking about who we're going to vote for. But I'll tell you about who impressed me after the break. It's College Football Smothered and Covered. We are presented by Locked On. All right, show brought to you by Ultimate College Football Head Coach. I want to take a moment and give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. It's Ultimate College Football HC. It's an amazing game and simulation. You get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine being the head coach of, I don't know, USC after what happened last night? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? Here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can go play on the go as you want to here and there. I did that on the flight back from London last week. It certainly kept me busy between movies, that I watched. It's completely free. And of course, we have a special offer for you. Use the promo code Locked On CFB, Locked On CFB, all caps. Make sure it's all caps inside the game store and receive a free boost to your program. Make sure you take advantage of this perk. It will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up in the App Store today. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Okay, Cam Ward. I was wrong. I was wrong. I thought Cam Ward was a stat monster and a stat monster alone. Now, he certainly was a stat monster against Florida. He certainly was a stat monster against Florida. But he also won games. Like he's always said, and they mentioned it on the broadcast as well, that he models his game after Patrick Mahomes. Now you saw why. Because he can do it. He can do it. He made every throw. He made sidearm throws. He made throws on the run. He made throws in the pocket. He did every possible thing he could do to not only prove to the world that he's a Heisman candidate, but that all the NFL folks that talked to him before he transferred to Miami, because remember, he did commit to or declare for the NFL draft, or just the fact that he was leaving Washington State. But let's be honest, he was going to the draft. Now you see why. Now I see why. And I was wrong about him. I was way wrong about him. So what does it mean moving forward? All of that attention is on the U. Now, that's dangerous because the U has not had that kind of love in a very long time. They haven't had a first-round quarterback drafted since the early 90s. Yes, that's an actual stat. Seems incredible, but it's the truth. So for Cam Ward, you got to handle the spotlight. And I know it's post-game interviews and all that stuff, and you only get a small glimpse into what a player's thinking, but he certainly looked like a guy who could handle the pressure, handle the responsibility, handle everything that goes along with being the number one quarterback, not just at his school, not just in his conference, but nationwide. So if I'm making a Heisman Trophy list right now, I always kind of go by 2 or 3 different mantras. Value to a team. Clearly it's there. Without Cam Ward's Miami winning that game, probably not, but certainly is not going to be a national championship contender. Just pure production. Sure, he's there. And where do you lead your team? Where do you lead your team in terms of overall success? Well, it's only 1 week, but Miami's the talk of college football for a reason. So I'm not going to get too deep into what my Heisman list is, because again, we can't talk about everything, but Cam Ward's at the top. I can tell you right now, if we're doing week 1 Heismans, Cam Ward is 100% at the top, followed by Carson Beck and probably Quinn Ewers. Now, that's not really that exciting because those guys have always been sort of in my mind, the top 2. But one player who I still don't believe in, even though he threw for over 400 yards, is Dillon Gabriel. Let's talk about stat monsters. That's a stat monster game. Oregon looked awful against Idaho. Awful against Idaho. Now, part of it is because Dillon didn't finish drives. Dillon made a couple mistakes. Dillon didn't understand how to handle the success that he has had, that he did have in that game, and translate that into points. So I thought Cam Ward was the stat monster that doesn't have that value to his team. That narrative to me has switched a little bit, because now to me, maybe Dillon Gabriel is that guy. In fact, I do think Dillon Gabriel is that guy. Now, I thought that going into the season, I thought that basically throughout his career, but it just further emphasized that all of this love that Dillon Gabriel's been getting going into the season as the Heisman Trophy favorite that it validated a lot of what I thought. Now, the big story this weekend in terms of the Heisman, who is Quinn Ewers? Because Michigan's coming, or they're going to Michigan. Say what you want about how incredibly average to slightly below average Michigan looked in its opener against Fresno State. That defense is still salty. So this week, the Heisman referendum will be on Quinn Ewers. The overreaction will be on Quinn Ewers. What does he do? How does he look? How does he handle a Michigan defense on the road? Can he lead his team to the promised land? Does he have the kind of success that you have to have in terms of winning the Heisman Trophy? So this week it's on Quinn Ewers. All eyes on Quinn. But man, I was wrong about Cam Ward. I was way wrong about Cam Ward. That will wrap it up for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On. Hey, I'm very happy you made this your first listen. For your second listen, go to the Locked On College Football podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can catch the link to the Locked On College Football podcast in the description below, so you don't even need to search. It's part of the Locked On College Football Podcast Network, your team every day. Enjoy your Labor Day Monday. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. We'll have another football game to dissect. We'll see if Boston College can cover. Till then, have a great one.